All right, so I want to show you guys where I'm at with the different designs for the, here, hold on a second, let me push this down a little bit so you can see a little bit better. Yeah, for the designs for the rotor. So here's the first test I did with resin. And there's two reasons I'm going to use the resin. One, for obviously for safety, for stability, so that the screw, when the screw goes in to hold the magnet in, it's going to be anchored with something solid like resin. And this actually worked out really good. I poured this in two settings. I made a huge mistake though. I poured it halfway to avoid cracking, because I don't know if you remember back when I made the monster rotor, the very first one uh, that I made it out of resin. I poured it all in one sitting and it cracked all over the place. Well, anyway, while I was pouring this one, only doing it halfway, I realized I hadn't plugged the holes and resin was pouring out. So I had to quickly just stick wooden pegs in there, which I then cut off. But this was just a test, and it worked out good. So the two reasons, one is stability for the magnets so they don't fly out, and the other one is for the weight, for almost like a flywheel effect. I think, I don't know if it was Tellboy or G-Law had mentioned the flywheel effect. So I know the resin works good. This is really nice and hard. I'm not going to use this because this was just for the test. Then I printed out this one. And although it printed out great, this part here turned out to not fit very well on top of the rotor. It was kind of cattywonk. I don't know if I could show you. See, it doesn't sit nice and flat. And even if I do get it nice and flat, well, that's actually pretty good there. But I don't like that. So I'm not going to use that. Then I decided to print out some more rotors, not use, oh, and this was the very first test, which is a really good one, but I'm not going to use it. It's too small. And of course, I abandoned trying to make it out of acrylic. I made this little cap, which fits on here perfect and is really nice. And then I can attach the other ones that I made. Let me see if I can get this guy to stay on there. And as you can see, that is nice and concentric. There's no wobbling. It's perfectly straight. So I can use this cap to attach different ones to if I want to. So this one is a big contender. This would be for the 8-pole rotor. So we would use 8 magnets on here, like this all the way around. I'm also going to make a 4-pole one, like this. And I abandoned the little holes because they just didn't print out very well. But this is the idea. I'm going to put some sort of screw in here with a nut and a big washer, and then fill this with resin so it'll trap that screw in there. But what I was thinking was putting it actually this way, putting the nut and the washer and all that on there, fill it with resin, and then see if I can actually unscrew it so that I could put the magnet on like this. Obviously, I'm not going to use this little size screw, but I didn't want to have I didn't want this to be sitting out like this, through here like this, with the magnet on here, and then having to put a nut on the end of that. That would just look terrible. So I think I'm going to try to do a test, probably with this one here, where I put the proper size bolt in there that has a nice round head like that. Probably make it out of, I don't know if I'm going to do it with a brass. But anyway, put the resin in there, let it cure, and then see if I can actually back that out, which would then leave the nut and the washer in there embedded in the resin, so that I can then change out the magnets at will for the different rotors. I didn't even try this one yet. Anyway, let's try this guy on here and see how he fares. Yeah, see, this one came out nice, and with the added weight of the resin, it really helps it out. And it turns out that the resin, it got hot, but it didn't warp the PLA, which was one of my other big concerns, that, you know, PLA not being heat sensitive would warp. Anyway, so I've got an 8 rotor one, an 8 pole, a 6 pole, and a 4 pole. So I'm going to use these 3 here. And again, here's the base. So this guy sits in the base, and then this guy will sit on there like that. Yeah, that'll work really nice. And so this will be the basis for the new rotors going forward. And then, of course, I'll mount this to a square of acrylic. So I'm going to try that test I was just telling you about. I'm going to try to put a bolt in there with a nut, and then pour some resin in there, let it get hard, and see what that does. See if I can back this out. If not, I'll just go the original way, which is to mount it in there, fill it up with resin, and then just use, I don't know, a locking nut on the end. Something like, what do we got here? Something like this, a nylock. Although I really don't want to do that because that's going to look terrible. Anyway, that's where I'm at with these guys. Yeah, this one I'm going to toss. This one I'm going to toss too. And this one. This one was a good test. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. But yeah, I'm definitely going to keep these guys. And this is the one I'm going to test my idea. And I think if I put the bolt in here like this, and I maybe put some mold release on it, or some sort of an oil or a wax on there, put the bolt and the washer in there, throw the resin in, let it get nice and hard, and see what happens if I can actually back this out after it's hard. I will definitely let you know how that works out. Ciao. So this is kind of what I'm going for. And I just realized that I don't think I need to have the bolt or the screw or whatever I use all the way in, like this far in. Just enough to grab the 2 nuts. So let me pour the resin, which will take several hours to cure, and then see what happens. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm going for. You know, I don't know that I actually need the washer, but I think that'll help hold it in or help stabilize it. But I don't think I really need it. But yeah, this is just for a test. So I don't have a a vacuum chamber or a way of getting the bubbles out, but the stuff I'm using is pretty good. this is how it ended up drying. Although it looks, whoops, it looks pretty murky now, but as the bubbles come to the top for the first 15 minutes or so, I kill it with a flame. And so hopefully within, I don't know, a few hours, I'll be able to see if I can pull the screw out or the bolt out. But yeah, I think this is going to work. And again, if it doesn't, the worst case scenario is I'll just put the bolt in from this way, put the resin in, and just do it that way. But I think it'll work. Let me see if I can one-handedly start this thing. There. Yeah, the flame easily gets the bubbles out. I actually do have a makeshift pressure pot, but it's not big enough for this. It's a cylinder type where you can slide stuff in. Oh, I might be able to. Well, it's too late now. Anyway, I'll let you know how it comes out, obviously.